Hey, shalom, shalom. Hayywam Tawab, which is good day. Knocking out Waha Bar. Yasha Allah Hawalakim La Tham. Call Shabawai Baharakha Wakakshaw. Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua Mahamath, which is truly hang with the Hebrew Israelites. Coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua to preach to you so called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indian Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Nacham Atam Kaya Hamalak Wathashamayim Korah, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, I'm going to say, call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahushua Bahasham Chah Kodash. And double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and rule well, and much respect to you bros out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
All right, so we're going into Bamatasha Yasha'Allah, all right, in the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. All right, we're going to start with Ephraim, all right, and we'll get Bara'ash to Genesis chapter 41 and verse 52.
Genesis 41 and verse 52, and it reads, "In the name of the second called he Ephraim, for the Most High hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction."
Which that's a foreshadowing of Ephraim, Ahparayam, because his name means he is fruitful. Baba Kushak, could you click on Ephraim?
Khan.
You scroll down. It says, "I shall be doubly fruitful." Now I want to break that word down. Let's go to Genesis chapter 20 and verse 16. Baba Kushak. And you can just click into the verse.
Khan.
And we'll get the word for Allah. You keep scrolling. Right there. 1,000. It says 1,000 company. You can scroll down and then click into the lexicon.
Khan.
Let's see. You keep going. It says a family, many of which constituted one tribe. All right, so you got that letter A, you got Pa, and you got Ra, which we don't have to get it, but Pa goes into the mouth, which is open. All right, then Ra goes into Ra'ash, which is the head. So open the head, because when you go into a fruit, in order to get to the seed, you gotta open the like an apple. You gotta split the apple open and take the seed out. That's essentially why fruit has its name. Just like apricots, pears, all right, and also just fruit in general. In order to get the seed out for most fruits, you gotta split the head of the fruit, get to the seed. That's why fruit is applied to or para is applied to fruit. But Ahparayam's name is Ah, Pa, and Ra. All right, which the Ah, like we got right here, this is a family, many of which constituted one tribe. All right, so his name goes into I am fruitful. Ah goes into I will be fruitful. You see, but then it also goes into a family of fruit. Because Ephraim has a lot of children, which is the so-called Puerto Ricans. They're very fruitful.
Khan.
Could we get Genesis chapter 49 and verse 22?
This is Genesis chapter 49 and verse 22, and it reads, "Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall."
It's a lot. If you got precept, you can go bring it out, bro. I gotta look some notes up real fast.
Khan. I just want to make mention of this too. This is pretty much going into how fruitful and how much Joseph reproduces, man. Like they be getting it in. So many kids, so many children, so many grandchildren. You see over there in Puerto Rico, they're very high density, especially on that little island that they live in, man. I believe I looked it up earlier. It was like somewhere around 3.2 million people are living in that island, which is like a 5,000 square foot island.
Family of fruit.
Yeah, hey, they're very fruitful, man.
That pretty it's a lot.
No, Salaki, you got it. Go ahead.
No, I was finna say that pretty much touches on the point that I wanted to get. I can't find the notebook, but that pretty much hits the nail on the head. But you can go down to verse. I'll read verse 23. It says, "The archers have sorely grieved him, and shouted at him and hated him." Going into the Spanish conquistadors, when
Mm-hmm.
Yawasop Joseph was on the islands of Puerto Rico, and I believe also Cuba, pretty much the Taínos. But it says, "But his bow, a bow and strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty power of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Yasha'Allah." Pretty much going into how they try to take him out, but the Lord preserved the so-called Taínos.
That's right. And we brought it out before. The history of the Taínos, but you know, whenever we brought it out, we pretty much touched on the point that there was like millions upon millions of Taínos on those islands at one point. But once the conquistadors got there, and or the aftermath of the conquistadors pretty much left them few in number. You know, just going into back touching onto this point. Uh, but may I get something real quick?
Con.
This is pretty much going into when it says back in verse 22, it says, "Who branches runneth over the wall." Pretty much touching on the fact that Ephraim and when you look up the word branches, it pretty much goes into daughters. When you look up bow, it goes into sons. It pretty much runneth over the wall, going into the point that Ephraim was able to get uh pretty much the island of Puerto Rico is like what isn't it like a almost like a state, I guess you could say, of
Mm-hmm.
America. So
Right.
they're able to go back and forth, from America to here, I
Mm-hmm.
mean to Puerto Rico, and you see how Ephraim was able to migrate over to what the major cities like New York, mainly like all of what is called New England, right? From Maine all the way to Connecticut to New York, New Jersey, all those areas. You see a lot of Ephraimites there, also in Chicago, some in Florida, right? But I got just a quick article to touch on that point.
That's heavy too, because you said
Hmm.
you said Yawasop is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful. So
Oh no, you got it.
it says Yawasop is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well.
Hmm.
Because that word bow, like you said, goes into bond, which is son. It
Hmm.
says whose branches run over the wall. The branches again is Bath, which is the daughter, like you was going into. What you
Hmm.
was saying that pretty much they go into America. They have like access to America.
Right.
Yeah,
And I got this
that's heavy.
I got this article real quick. This is from history.com. It says why Puerto Rican migration to the US boomed after 1945. And I just want to read a little bit just real quick. It says in the 2 decades after World War II, hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans boarded planes for America in what has come to be known as the island's Great Migration. So that can be applied
Yep.
that verse right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it on that.
Con.
Want me to continue on Genesis 49?
We get the Barium Deuteronomy chapter 33. We get verse 13 and down to verse 17.
Con. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33, and verse 17. And it reads, "His glory is like the firstlings of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth,
Mm-hmm.
and they are the 10,000s of Ephraim,
Mm-hmm.
and they are and they are the thousands of Manasseh."
Right. So we just saw Ahparayam, going into he shall be fruitful. It says 10,000s of Ephraim, because we got that word for Allah, which is ah. It goes into the thousands. They have a
Hmm.
lot of children. Manasseh has a lot of children as well. Going back to Genesis chapter 49 and verse, I believe it's verse 22. We can skip down to, let me see, skip down to verse 17, I believe.
Oh,
Oh no, sorry, verse 13.
okay, con. So go back up.
Yeah, right there.
Con. Deuteronomy 33 and verse 13, it says, "And of Joseph he said, Blessed of Yahweh be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew and for the deep that couches beneath.
Con, could you click into the
The
to get the
article.
Hebrew? Not a Hebrew.
Oh, so like it.
And it says, you scroll back up.
Oh, so like it.
It says, Ma Barakath Yahweh Aratazawa. So the part where it says Barakath, that's in the same phonetic sound as Boricua.
Right.
Barakath Boricua. Showing you that pretty much it's talking about the land of Puerto Rico. Because Boricua means because Ma Barakath Yahweh Aratazawa means bless the land of the Lord. Boricua means land of the veiling Lord. Going
Right.
back to the scriptures.
Hey, I got an article on that too, just real
Can,
quick.
can I finish it out first?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I want to finish that point out, and
So
then we
like
get
it.
the article.
Want me to click on that word?
No, go back to the 13th verse, Baba Shah.
Con. I'm gonna read it again. It says, "And of Joseph he said, blessed of Yahweh be his land, for
Mm-hmm.
the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that couches beneath,
Right. You keep going.
and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for
Yep.
the precious things brought put forth by the moon,
Mm-hmm.
and for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills."
Mm-hmm.
Verse 16, "And for the precious things of the earth, and fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush, that
Yep.
the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren."
Right. So it says, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren, going into Joseph, because he was in Egypt, you
Hmm.
know. So it's going into um Manashah and Ahparayam, Ephraim and Manasseh, the so-called Cubans, the so-called Puerto Ricans.
Hmm.
So, and both of them are blessed with good land. Cuba, like we get in the articles, I don't want to Zah.
Hmm.
Both of them was blessed with good land. That's why Puerto Rico is called Puerto Rico, rich port. All right, Cuba, that goes into a Taino word, but I believe it goes into some type of a blessing of the land. Could we go ahead and get those the articles, Bob Shaw?
Con. Let me see. Right here. Con, right here. Natural resources.
Yeah. Or whatever
Con.
article you can get, or we start with this one first.
Con. It says right here, natural resources. It says one of the most extraordinary natural elements of the island are the great amount of caves formed by limestone.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the rivers in Cuba are not long. The main are Cauto, Saza, and Sagua La Grande. The coastline of Cuba is very irregular and is formed by a lot of gulfs and bays,
Mm-hmm.
such as the Gulf of Batabano and the one of uh, Wacanayabo. Its total length is about 3,740 kilometers. There are a lot of natural ports in the island. The most highlighted are the ones of Havana City, Cardenas, Matanzas, and Nuevitas in the north coast of Guantanamo, Santiago de Cuba, and Cienfuegos in the south coast.
Mm-hmm. This is the point right here.
Con. It says Cuba is blessed by its rich land. It is
Mm-hmm.
concentrated. It has concentrated mineral wealth in nickel, wood, and petroleum. It says, in fact, Cuba has enough petroleum deposits in offshore wells that once it develops that machinery to extract oil, it can become self-sufficient and will not need to import oil. Besides mineral wealth, Cuba also has a strong fishing industry that caters to the foreign markets and tourist hotels in Cuba.
Right. So they have like some rich land going to the part where it says Cuba is blessed by its rich land. Going back to the point where it said in Deuteronomy, we don't gotta get it. I get it right here. This
Hmm.
is Deuteronomy 33. Deuteronomy 33 and verse 13. It says, and of Yahweh he said, blessed of the Lord be his land. Going into where it says, Cuba is blessed by its rich land. You know, you can't get around the scriptures. You know, it gets straight to the point. You know,
Right.
and I believe also in Puerto Rico, it says in verse 14, and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things brought forth by the moon. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like at night, Puerto Rico has like some type of luminescent sand or water or something like that. Or it might have had it previously. Let me look. Let me see if I can find an article. You can get your article, bro.
Con. I just want to touch on that point that you made earlier going into Boricua. This is from discoverpuertorico.com. See if I can pull it up. Right here. It says Taino beginnings. It says Puerto Rico's first inhabitants were the Tainos, a group of indigenous people who lived on the island for hundreds of years before the Spanish arrival.
Mm-hmm.
It says organized in small clans and villages led by caciques, chiefs. They survived by fishing, hunting, and basic agriculture. The Tainos were governed by uh, Aguaybana and called the island Borican or Boriquan, which means land of the valiant and noble lord.
Mm-hmm.
So just
I got
touching
that.
on that point you made.
I got that right here. It says, going to, if I can get it real fast. It
Con.
says, and of Joseph he said, "Blessed of the Lord be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew and for the deep that coucheth beneath, and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things brought forth by the moon." And when you go into luminescent, it pretty much goes into lunar, which is the moon. So I got this. It says, for a relatively small nation geographically, Puerto Rico has a wealth of natural treasures, and this includes 3 bioluminescent bays, a natural phenomenon caused by living organisms. A visit to a bio bay makes for an unforgettable experience. And this is a picture of it right here. Pretty much going into how they beaches look at night.
Mm.
Yep. The stuff brought forth by the moon, you know.
Con. I'm gonna go back. I
Let's
want to go
get
back. Oh, Slakia. Go ahead.
we could touch on Cuba. Let's get we'll start at Genesis chapter 41 and verse 51.
Let's see. Genesis 41 and verse 51, and it reads, and Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for the Most High said he hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house.
Right. So Yahweh Joseph named his firstborn Manashah, Manasseh. You know, pretty much this is a foreshadowing, because just like Noah foreshadowed what Yahweh came to do, because Noah went through the baptism, he was essentially spiritually cleansed by water. All right, this is a foreshadowing of what Manashah was going to go through, you know, because it says Yahweh called the name of the firstborn Manashah, for the Most High said he hath made me forget all my toil in my father's house, because essentially Joseph was he had to go through a lot of stuff initially when he first got to Egypt, you know. So that's pretty much going into that, you know. So Manashah goes into made to forget, and we'll get why it goes into that. Could you click on Manasseh's name?
Con.
You go to the root word,
Con.
and it says Nashah. All right, that Na, you can scroll back up to the top. It says Nashah. That Na goes into continuance, continual. Shah goes into pressing. All right, because you press with your teeth, so it goes into water continually pressing. So can you scroll down?
Con.
And it says to forget, to deprive, to be forgotten. Then it says to neglect, to remit, remove. All right. So we'll get that. Let's get Genesis chapter 48. We'll start from the top and go down to verse 20.
Con. Genesis 48 and verse 1, and it reads, and it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him 2 sons.
Right. So this talking about right before our forefather Yasha'Allah, Israel, had passed away.
Hmm.
pretty much or Joseph was in Egypt.
Right. Con. It says, "Behold, thy father is sick, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim.
Hmm.
And one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed.
Hmm.
And Jacob said unto Joseph, The Most High Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will
Con,
give
could you scroll back up? I want to touch on that point real fast.
Con right
It
here. I'm
says it says in but go to verse 1, Baba Kashaw.
Con.
It says, and it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, thy father is sick, and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. So going into that point, going into that point, it was said to him because he was separate from his brethren. So let me get this real fast. This is Deuteronomy 33 and verse 17. It says, And for the precious things of the earth and the fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush, let the blessing upon the head of Joseph and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren, because he was in Egypt. So pretty much that was applied to Manasseh and Ephraim because that was their forefather, but it was going into the point that Joseph was separated from his brethren when he was in Egypt. So we
Right.
can go back to verse 4.
Con. This is Genesis 48 and verse 4. It says, And said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will
Right.
give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession.
Right. Going back to when it said that thousands of, that's talking about Joseph, I believe. Can you scroll back up?
Con. Yeah, and Jacob said unto Joseph, The Most High Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of
Okay.
Canaan and blessed me.
Okay. Well, it's talking about Jacob in general. It's talking about Jacob. So you keep going.
Con. Verse 5 it says, And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which
Mm-hmm.
are born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine.
Mm-hmm.
And thy issue, which thou begettest after me, after them, shall be thine,
Mm-hmm.
and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance.
Right. So pretty much it's saying that Ephraim and Manasseh are going to be blessed, but the sons that's born after them, they'll take on to their blessing.
Mm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Con. And later on, whenever you hear about the name Joseph, you know, it's talking about Ephraim,
Mm-hmm.
just talking about how, pretty much Ephraim replaced Joseph in
Yeah.
the tribal sense.
Mm-hmm.
But verse 7 it says, And as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come unto Ephrath, and I
Mm-hmm.
buried her there in the way of Ephrath, the same as Bethlehem. It says, verse 8, And Israel beheld Joseph's sons and said, Who are these?
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph said unto his father, They are my sons, whom the Most High hath given me in this place. And he said, Bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age,
Mm-hmm.
so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, the Most High has showed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from kiss between Salakia. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand,
Right.
and
So
brought them near
Ephraim,
unto him.
it says Ephraim. Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, because Ephraim was the youngest. And it
Hmm.
says Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, because Manasseh was the oldest, and brought them near unto him. So he was doing it. Joseph was doing it in order.
Right. Gone. Verse 14 it says, And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who
Yeah.
was
So
the
he
younger.
he took his right hand and laid it on the one that was on his left,
Right.
and then the one that was on his right, he crossed his arms, you know.
Right. Pretty much Jacob was in the spirit,
Yeah, yep.
but it says right here, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head,
Hmm.
guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn.
Right, because Manasseh, he was supposed to get the blessing that Ephraim got, but it
Hmm.
says guiding his hands wittingly because he was in the spirit, like you just said.
Hmm. Yeah, he pretty much crossed his arms. He had one
Hmm.
arm like this and the other arm like this.
Yep.
Verse 15 it says, and he blessed Joseph and said, uh, the Most High, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the power which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name uh, be named on them, and the name of my father Abraham and Isaac, and let
Hmm.
them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth.
Right, going into the 10,000s of Ephraim and the thousands of Manasseh. He
Hmm.
shall be fruitful. Ahparayam is going to be fruitful. And Manasseh is also fruitful, but more so Puerto Rican, so called.
That's right. Verse 17 it says, and when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he
Because
held up.
going, so like, I ain't mean to cut you off. Let me
You get
get
up.
this. Uh, let me get this. This is should be in Deuteronomy. It's a scripture that says the blessing of the firstborn that he's supposed to get like a double portion or something like that.
Deuteronomy 21:17.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah. That's what it is. This is Deuteronomy, Ahparayam, chapter 21 and verse 17. Yeah, you pull it up.
Con, I'll read it. I'm gonna start at 16.
Con.
It says, then it shall be when he maketh his son to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn.
Right, because the firstborn had a specific lot.
Mm-hmm. Con. Verse 17. But he shall acknowledge the son for the hated for the firstborn, by giving him a double portion of all that he hath.
Hmm.
For he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his.
Right, because the firstborn had rights, so that's why it displeased Yawasap Joseph because traditionally the firstborn would get the blessing.
Right. The same thing with Reuben. He would have received that firstborn blessing, but
Hmm.
since he laid in his father's couch, he committed adultery. He lost that. So let's go back. Um, this is Genesis 48:17, and it reads, and when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head.
Hmm.
And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused.
Showing you, I believe he had already blessed him by that point, but showing you that
Right.
it's like that was the will of the Lord. It's no getting around the will of the Lord. I'm gonna get a scripture on that.
Uh,
This is you know where it says in Romans 8.
uh, I think it's Romans 9.
Yeah, Romans 9 and 19 says, "Thou wilt say then unto me, why doeth he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will?" Hey, so if the
Mhm.
Lord has willed it, nobody's gonna get around that. The Lord's will is gonna be done. If we read it again,
Where was it at?
Romans 9 and 19.
Okay, yeah, I see it. This is Romans 9 and 19. It says, thou wilt say unto me, why doth he yet find fault? For
Hmm.
who have resisted his will?
Right, nobody resisted the Lord's will. Because Joseph tried. Again, traditionally, the firstborn would get those rights, but that was in the spirit. So you can't get around the spirit of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Con. Going back, this is Genesis 48 and 19. It says, and his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it.
Right.
He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But
Salak.
truly,
Can I stop
Salaki,
you right there?
Khan,
Did you click on Genesis 48 and 19? We get the word for refused.
Khan,
And it says ma'an. And you go down, it says refuse, to refuse. And then it says, you scroll down to the lexicon.
Khan.
Yeah, it says to refuse, to be unwilling. So we can go back to that scripture, Baba Kushah.
Khan.
Because going into Manasseh's name, Manashah, it says, and his father refused and said, "I know it, my son." So that was going into what that was prophesied, because
Mm-hmm.
Manashah means made to forget, because initially he was supposed to get the firstborn blessing, but that's that prophecy being fulfilled. It says, and his father refused and said, "I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations." Going
Mm-hmm.
into his name, made to forget, Manashah.
Right. And
Also going, you go ahead.
Salaki.
Also going into that word is Manashah. All right, is Ma is Mayam water, Na as continuance, continual, Shah as pressing, Ha is behold, to behold, to look at, So Manashah, it's like water is passing over, it's neglecting a certain part. If you had like a tsunami, like usually it touches everything, but it's like a tsunami jumped over something, it didn't touch
Mm-hmm.
that part. So that's essentially going into that prophecy.
Khan. And when he says he refused, he says, I know it. That shows you that even though Jacob couldn't see, he wasn't able to see things good. I think his vision was blurry or something, right? Even though he couldn't see, he the spirit guided him and made him know that what he was doing. Like he knew what he
Mm-hmm.
was doing. He wasn't doing things on accident.
Mm-hmm.
But when it says right here, his younger brother shall be greater than he, because you see even now, within Ephraim, right? Ephraim is they're great at pretty much a lot of things, boxing,
Hell
sports, music, dancing, all that, man. I believe Ephraimite music is very popular, man. The what's it called, the bachata and all that.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's very popular around here, man.
They act very similar to Judah.
That's right.
Because
Yeah,
Judah is the head tribe of the southern kingdom, and then Ephraim is the head tribe of the northern kingdom.
that's right. That's right. And you see Manasseh. Manasseh is good too. They're good at sports and boxing and all that.
Yeah,
But you can see the difference. How Ephraim has surpassed Manasseh.
yeah,
Also in children too.
yeah.
I'm gonna finish it out. Verse 20. It says, "And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel be Salakia. In thee shall Israel bless, saying, The Most High make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he said Ephraim before Manasseh."
Right. He set Ephraim the youngest before Manasseh, made to forget. That's prophecy being fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Fulfilled.
Gone.
So we can touch on those articles. I'm gonna hit the bathroom real fast, bro.
Gone. Yeah, I'm gonna get an article real quick.
Uh,
I want to touch on. I want to touch on the point where it says in Genesis 49. Let me get that real quick. Genesis 49 and verse 20, verse 23, where it says, "The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him." Pretty much going into Esau. During the time of the conquistadors. And also wanted to get a article right here from Britannica.com. Says the history of Puerto Rico. It says the following discussion focuses on Puerto Rican history from the time of European settlement for treatment of the island in the region context. Okay, never mind. It says, let me go down. It says the first inhabitants of Puerto Rico were hunter gatherers who reached the island more than 1,000 years before the arrival of the Spanish. Arawak Indians who developed the Taino culture had also settled there by 1000 CE. The clan-based Taino lived in small villages led by cacique or chiefs. They had a limited knowledge of agriculture, but grew such domestic tropical crops as pineapples, cassava, and sweet potatoes. and supplemented their diet with seafood. In the late 15th century, 2,000 to 5,000 Taino lived in Puerto Rico. So this is showing you the population at that time period, which I believe it was led to be more than that. I believe it was more than that. I think they're highly deflating the numbers because I read in another article that there were like about a million or over a million in Puerto Rico, but it says which they called Boricuan uh, or Borican. It says the Taino occasionally warded off attacks with their Carib neighbors from islands to the southeast, to the south and east, including the Virgin Islands and Vequest Islands. It says in 1493, Christopher Columbus left Spain on his second voyage to the Indies with a large expedition of 17 ships and about 1,500 men at the island of Guadeloupe. The Spaniards rescued several Taino prisoners from whom the Carib had taken from the Boricuan, and Columbus agreed to return them to their island. On November 19th, 1493, Columbus anchored in a bay on the west coast of Borican, and he promptly renamed San Juan Bautista St. John the Baptist, and claimed for the Spanish monarchs Ferdinand II and Isabella I. The expeditionary spent 2 days on the island before sailing westward to Hispaniola, where they established the first permanent settlement in the New World. But pretty much the whole time that they were there, you know about the history about Christopher Columbus, man. This man was a damn devil, man. He just constantly slaying. There's I believe it was in his diary where he wrote that he didn't put his sword down not one day when he was there in the islands, man. Just constantly slaying. He gave him no peace. Just going back to Genesis 49 and 22, it says, 23, the archers have grievously sore him and shot at him and hated him. And even to this day, eh, Esau hates Ephraim. They showed you that hatred whenever they went down there during the hurricane. I forgot what hurricane it was that hit uh, Puerto Rico, where Trump went down there and started like shooting little toilet paper or whatever the fuck it was, hand towels at them. Showing you that hey, these people don't care about y'all, man.
Right.
But I also wanted to touch on, also wanted to get another precept, which pretty much is going into prophecy. Hosea, I believe is 13. Hosea 13 and verse 16. It says, Samaria shall be desolate, for she hath rebelled against her power. They shall fall by the sword, their infants shall be dashed in pieces, and the woman with child shall be ripped up. Now, this didn't happen in the land of Samaria. There's no account of this happening. Samaria is, going into Puerto Rico. You know, this is what happened to Ephraim. You hear different accounts of, the Spaniards hanging up the women upside down and ripping the belly open while she was pregnant and ripping the baby out and crushing the baby's skull, just stomping on it and leaving the woman up there to hang. There's many accounts of that. Let me see. But just going into, Samaria was the land, which pretty much northern kingdom, right? Which Ephraim was the head of the northern kingdom, the northern tribes. Con. Let me go back to that Genesis.
Con, we can get Hosea chapter 7 and verse 8.
Con. Hosea 7 and verse 8. And it reads, Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned.
Right, because you got Ephraimites that, so-called Puerto Ricans. You got some that's super dark skinned, and then you got some that's like almost like they look like Edomites almost.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's also going into how fruitful Ephraim is. Because you had the Vietnam War as well, and you already know Ephraim was fighting in that war. As well as Jake. So they have children over there in Vietnam, Ephraim and Judah.
Mm-hmm. Con, we all over,
Right, but all over the place.
Ultimately, we're all over the place. We're scattered, but whatever the blessing of the Father was, that's ultimately the tribe that you will go back to. We'll get more knowledge of that in the kingdom, but it doesn't deter from the fact that every tribe shows the characteristics of their forefather,
That's right.
which we don't need a DNA test to, to say, oh, we're Israelites. It's all through the spirit. I'm
Right.
gonna get that real fast. This is Yeshaya, Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 16. It says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them." So ultimately we were gathered by the spirit. The elect is being gathered by the spirit. And also Romans 8 and 16. It says the spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. Hey, so the spirit, we can see the words in the book, and then also it resonates with our spirit that we're the children
Mhm.
of the Lord. We can see everything that the prophecies and present day current events. Hey, we're the children of the Lord. We're those people.
That's right. Con.
You have some more articles you want to touch on?
No, that was it on the articles. I'm gonna go back to Genesis.
Yeah, Genesis 49 and 49. We'll finish it out on that.
Con. This is Genesis 49 and verse 20,
Yeah, you get 23.
23. Yeah, con. It says the archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him, but his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty power of Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel.
Right. So the Lord made sure that that line, the so-called Tainos, wasn't taken out. Which Taino goes into good people. Tawab Aim.
Hmm.
I'm gonna read this again. It says, "But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty power of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Because they're the Lord's people. Good people. Tawab Aim. Taino.
Mm. Con. Verse 25, it says, even by the Most High, even by the power of thy Father,
Mm-hmm.
who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings from heaven above,
Mm-hmm.
blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb."
Mm-hmm. So they got the blessings of the heaven above, blessings of the deep beneath. Going into the resources. That,
Right.
that that nice water, the luminescent water. It says blessings of the breast and of the womb, because they got a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm. Con. Verse 26, the blessing of thy father hath prevailed above the blessing of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills.
Mm-hmm.
They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren.
Right. So those are the blessings of Joseph, the one that was separate from his brethren, like we got in Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter. Ultimately going into how Joseph was separate from his brethren because he was in Egypt.
Hmm.
And he had both Ahparayam, Manashah, Ephraim, and Manasseh. That's pretty much with Ephraim being that head tribe. You
Right.
know,
Con. Con.
but that was all you had, bro.
Con. That was it. That's all I had.
Well, Adonai Tazaza, Banaya Pablo is what was a beautiful edification through the spirit. Wa Adonai Tazah, Adam Yashu Wam Tawabe. Lord's will, you all have a good day. Go ahead and close it out by saying, Call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Cha Hakwadash. A double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and rule well. And much respect to you, bros, out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincere shalom, shalom. Wa
Shalom.
Yahweh Mahar, La Bachayim, Godspeed to the elect, shalom, shalom.
Con. Shalom.